All right. Hello, good afternoon. We are getting started here. We will be recording this, but I'm going to let some people jump in first and then we'll get started. So give us about another minute or two and then we'll start the webinar. Like we've got some people jumping in right now, so that's great. Okay, it looks like as we're Brian Welsh is the same webinar from Launch Academy. This is the MDF webinar, how to get vendors to pay for your marketing. So if you're on here, stay. Hopefully you'll learn something. This is the fourth part to a series that we've started. So let's get started while we're here. How to get vendors to pay for your marketing. It's easy and they're glad to do it. So just a few housekeeping things. We are recording this. So if you have to jump off, feel free. You'll get the recording as well. We've got a great panel for you today. So please feel free to ask any questions. Put the questions, if you wouldn't mind, in the Q&A box because I will monitor that. You're going to get to hear from 3 amazing MSPs that do a lot of marketing and use a lot of vendor money to pay for that marketing. So at the end of this too, we'll save some time for some Q&A for you to be able to ask some questions to them, but let's go ahead and get started. So free money is out there for marketing and it's just waiting for you to spend it. Anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Tanya Gentry. I am the Chief Sales Officer for Big Red Media, which is a TMT division. I work directly with the sponsors and vendors to sell for Robin's events and then doing other things like Digital Legion for them, as well as some of the MSP services. I have led efforts to sell over $12 million for Robin, so she lets me keep my job for that. I have done that over the last few years. I am also the top grossing salesperson for TMT. Anybody that sees Aaron, you can remind him of that. He doesn't like that. But I am for the last couple of years. It's a little bit easier. I do have some pretty good vendors that we work with. And one of the things I'm really super excited and passionate about is that I am part of the co-creator for the Ultimate MDF Guide, which we're talking about today, as well as Robin's trust-based marketing programs that we've come out with and Small Business Tech Day. So those are some of the things that we've come up with here on the Big Red Media side. So let's recap. Again, this is a series that we've had in place now since the beginning of this year. It's a passion for Big Red Media is to really get MDF, how do you get it? And get this out to our MSP community as sort of bridging that from the vendors to the MSPs. And let's recap from what we've done over the last 3 webinars. There's 3 reasons why MSPs don't use MDF. First one is they don't know about it. And I say this every time I'm here. You're here, you know about it, you can check that box. They don't know how to get it. So that's one of the things that we're also going to be talking about is the MDF guide. It's the Ultimate MDF Guide. It's something that our division is working with the vendor and channel companies to really get this beefed up for you guys so you can figure out okay, it's out there, how do I get it? And then the third one is you don't have the time or the resources to get it. This is what I'm excited about because in series, the second webinar we did, we had half the panel that's on here on that, and we got great feedback. People said, I want more, I want to ask more questions, I want to be able to talk to them and hear more of their success stories. Please bring them back. So we've done that. We've got really some really cool things that they're going to talk about, really how they've been successful, going a little bit deeper with some of the things that they've done that they talked high level about. We've got Hunter Farlow who's on here, who's even got the ability, he got to give away a car, or is in the process of giving away a car, a Corvette, right, if nothing else. So there's some really cool and different things that people have done using MDF, and we'll talk about what they've been successful with and then also what they've not been successful with. So it gives you a really good starting point. So here's the guide. Make sure if you don't have it, if you're attending this webinar, take a picture of that QR code, download the guide. We are adding to it every quarter. So it is something that our division is really pushing for the channel companies to get involved with. And here's a good grouping of the people that are involved in it right now. So all these companies are listed in one way, shape, or form inside of the Ultimate MDF guide. And so that means there is money out there. So if you're in the partnership with any of them or you're using their products, there's probably some money out there for you to use for marketing. And we've got 4 new vendors. I'm really super excited about this. We've added these in the last couple of months. The first one is Nerdio. So I don't know how many people know Natasha. I'm pretty sure almost everybody in the channel knows Natasha, but she is running the partner program for Nerdio. Some of the things I thought were really cool inside the guide, and you can read about it, is they don't have a lot of restrictions. As long as you're talking about Microsoft Azure, they'll work with you on what you can use the funds for. They're also too, you get to use Natasha's brain and what she's seen people have success with. So definitely check that one out if you're a Nerdio partner, or if you're thinking of becoming a Nerdio partner. The next couple that we have is AirSlate. AirSlate was pretty cool. When I was reading through their description with it, they'll give up to $75,000, which is up to 50% of an event. So let's say you're having a live event, it's going to cost you $150,000, and you're an AirSlate customer of theirs. They're saying they'll give you quite a bit of money to go towards that. So keep that in mind. I thought that was really cool to read that. Crash Plan is relatively new to the MSP community, but they're really open to doing a lot of really cool and seeing success through minor league baseball games, Top Golf. We've heard a lot of people talk about doing a Top Golf event, distillery tours. I will be honest, when you start to read through some of the MDF and what it can be and can't be used for, lots of times alcohol is not something that some of these bigger vendors won't use. Crash Plan saying, hey, we're really successful with that. So I thought that was pretty cool to look at that too. And then Digital Beachhead, they were talking about how they've done super success with joint webinars. So where you bring them on, they're presenting for you on your behalf. They say if you can get 150 registered, half of those people to attend their webinar, they can usually get 1 to 2 new clients out of that for you. So some really cool new vendors that we've added to this. So definitely wanted you guys to be able to see it and to know that it's out there. So before we bring the panel on, I want to go back through and just do again a recap of what we've learned over the first 3 webinars. The first thing that we know when you're going to a vendor to ask for money is you really need to have a plan. It doesn't have to be super detailed, but it really needs to say, okay, this is what I'm wanting to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And here's going to be my success for it. Or this is what my outcome. The biggest key point that I can tell you from talking to vendors is that it's got to be mutually beneficial. We've had people that have come, we're in the middle of Small Business Tech Day. We're working with, a couple of the people on the panel actually even getting MDF to pay for this event that they're participating with us. And, the people, the MSPs that are going to the vendors and saying, hey, I'm part of your partner program. I know that, I spend this much money with you guys and I'm asking for a smaller amount than what I'm spending with you. They're being successful. The ones that are going in and say, hey, I'm spending $2,000 with you a year, but I want you to fund this for $20,000. The vendors are looking at them and going, this doesn't make sense, right? So it's got to be mutually beneficial. Typically, a vendor will not pay for more than 50% of what your costs are. So keep that in mind too. You're probably not going to get it covered by one vendor, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But as long as it's mutually beneficial, they're excited to participate. The key piece to everything when it comes to MDF is you've got to ask. So this is where people, go back and say, one of the things that I learned when we were putting this webinar series on was the vendors were saying this in the first series. They were like, hey, ask, you know what, you never know. Yeah, we've got some guidelines, we've got some things, but ask us. If you're not sure where to start, ask us. If you need help with things outside of money, ask us. And it just kept coming up. When we did the second series, with Wayne and Brandis being on there, the key piece that came back from everybody else on there was like, hey, I asked if we could do this. I asked what were you successful with. So we really want to make that as a key point, is we can give you guidelines, but you really just need to go to them and ask them. And that's part of it. You know, when you've got an idea or you know the basic plan, go to your vendor, ask them, what have they been successful with? What have they seen other people do? These vendors are working with a lot of MSPs. So we're going to go through some high level of what, you know, the three on the panel have been had success with. Go to your vendors too. They've seen it. They know. They can tell you, like, this person did this and they did a great job. This person didn't, you know, did the same type of event, but didn't do the follow-up. They can be a great advocate for you to figure out what it is that you're wanting to do from them. They'll tell you what success, they'll show you what the money is that they can give, and you'll learn a lot even at the beginning if you just talk to them. So the basic items for your plan really need to say, okay, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? And what do you want to achieve? So what's your anticipated MRR? The plan really needs to be smart. It's got to have achievable goals, goals that are mutually beneficial, again, going back to that, and making sure that you know what the vendors have for criteria on, you know, how to get the MDF for them. So that's going back to them again from the beginning and saying, hey, I'm going to do this. What makes the most sense for you guys? You know, they want you to be successful, especially if they're giving you money. So I always tell people, regardless of how good of a relationship you have with maybe the channel manager or the VP of channel, go to your account rep, go to your sales rep. Those are great people to start with because they make money if you sell more of their products or their solution. So they'll be a great advocate for you. They'll put together a lot of pieces that you may not even know that you needed. They'll be able to look at, they can go back and look on the back end through their CRM. This is how much money they're actually spending with us. This is the level that they are within inside the partner program. And they'll be able to do a lot of that front end for you. And it's going to be important because you really need 4 pieces to the plan. In our third webinar, we went into a deep dive with this. So if you've missed that one, feel free to go back to it. If you've got more questions about it, you can reach out to me. I'll give you my contact information. But really putting together an MDF plan has 4 pieces to it. Then the number one is, what kind of partnership do you have with them? So, you know, what's your demographics? What's your company? You know, where are you as far as your spend with them? That's going to be important because it's going to be a percentage of your spend typically is what they're going to give you as far as money is concerned. Number 2, what are you going to do? Is it a webinar? Is it a lunch and learn? What type of turnout are you expecting? So if you are going to do something that's virtual, you know, how many people do you think will show up? If you're doing something in person, you know, are you doing it with anyone else local? Do you have a JV partner that's going to be part of it? Those are all things that they're going to want to know about. And then what are your anticipated results? You want to think of this in like 30 days, 60 day, 90 day, 6 months, right? So what immediately are you going to get results from? What after the first 3 months will your results be? And then 6 months, what can you go back and look at to say, this is how we got it? And number 4 is, how are you doing the follow-up? So what are you doing? Do you have a campaign? If you're a TMT customer, there's all different kinds of campaigns that you can utilize to go back when you're doing a webinar or you do something in person, or really any of your marketing activities. You know, there'll be something, a blueprint that's in line with that. And then you're going to take this plan to your vendor. You're going to propose the plan. Does it make sense? You apply for the funds, and then you're going to execute with their help. One of the things that the panel will also talk about is, what did they use from vendors besides just money? There's lots of different things you can get from a vendor. They'll present on your behalf. You know, the swag and the collateral and doing all of that. You know, what we've learned through this series is vendors will do a lot for you that you may not have even known was available. And don't be discouraged when you first go out if they give you a small amount, right? So this is your start of your relationship with them when you're asking for money. If you're successful with that, if you come close to what those goals were, again, if you've got that plan in place, you're ahead of many other MSPs that are coming to them and asking for money. So if you've got these types of things and know that it might be a smaller amount or a smaller ask that they give you at the beginning, you know, the more successful that you're at, the better you'll be. They will time and time again, and all three of the panelists will be able to talk about that. Like they had to start somewhere too. So you start with one and then you grow it. Once you have those results to be able to say, hey, I'm good at this. I know what I'm doing now. We've done this and here's what it is. You'll get more and more money. So again, one last time, make sure you ask, but let's bring on the panel. So on today, we have Brandis Kelly, Hunter Farlow, and Wayne Hunter. So I'm actually going to stop sharing so you guys can see them directly, and we're going to make this super informal. The main thing that we want to talk about is what you guys have been successful with. So when we start to go through this, again, if you've got questions, feel free to put them in the question box, the Q&A. We'll get those answered. But really, you know, Brandis, I'll start with you, ladies first. Tell us, like, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you've done that you've seen super success with?
Well, we participated in Small Business Tech Day last year, and we're doing it again this year. So we were insanely successful in getting MDF for that. It is a very large event, so I kind of compiled like 4, I think total of 4 different vendors to help cover the cost of that, and then plus some. So, you know, ideally, anytime I'm ever trying to cover anything, like right now, we're actually in the middle of a lunch and learn series. So we started a series in June, and that's going through the end of the year. And we're also utilizing MDF for that. And there is one in there that has alcohol involved. I will say that, because it's actually technically like a happy hour event. But yes, definitely read the fine print on that, or be honest with it up front. But those are kind of the main ones that we're really doing right now, because our lunch and learn series, we have like 9 scheduled now. I mean, it's a lot. So we're using MDF for that, and then obviously Small Business Tech Day, and that's a bigger ticket item.
Awesome. When you're doing your lunch and learn, what made you guys, you know, start to do that? Like how did you say, okay, this is something, we're going to put 9 of these together? I think all 3 of you have some of these series types things that you do. And that's intriguing to me, because it's not just I'm going to do one webinar every, you know, 6 months and start it. Like, what did you put in place to think about when you're doing a series like that?
Well, so we started with just kind of an overview, and we actually used a JV partner for the very first one, which was actually a client. So we went to our client. It's a large bank, and we were like, hey, you know, how can we work this and benefit each other? We'll talk to your clients, so we're going to help educate them and teach them a few tips and tricks, and hopefully that will better protect them so they don't go to business, right? Because if you don't have a business and you don't have money to put in a bank, you don't need a bank. So that was like the very first part where we started, and just since then it's really just exploded. And now the reason that MDF in is because we're going to have like focused series, like focused little bits, like Datto as an example, a BCDR solution. So we'll be talking about that, and that will be where we'll use MDF with Datto, or SciNet, which is an EDR solution. We'll be talking about like protection of the endpoint and what that means, and cybersecurity just as a whole. And then we would bring in SciNet for that. So that's how MDF came into play there, but it started with the JV.
Oh, that's very cool. Awesome. Hunter, tell us what kind of things have you seen success with? I mean, I know, again, there's a Corvette that's running around in North Carolina that's got you on it, but
yeah, well, hey, don't tell everybody about that. Start with a secret, you know.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But if you come to North Carolina, you'll see it for sure. Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on. It's my first time as a panelist in this series, at least. And you're exactly right, Tanya. About the first 3 parts, I was actually on those as a guest, and that's where I've got all my education. It's because y'all put this on. So thank you for doing this, and now lets me do it. So thanks to what you said earlier about just asking, I didn't know what was out there personally. So in my experience last year, we did a big annual event that we do now every year. It's called CyberCon. So it's just a client appreciation event. It lasts pretty much the whole day, but it's us just providing value, cybersecurity tips, different training, Office 365, and a variety of other things. And we did get one vendor to pay for ThreatLocker came in, and I was like, we're going to give you the spotlight shot. You're going to get the photo opportunity backdrop. We're going to have a really cool Back to the Future DeLorean, because that was what we decided to do. Then they stole my idea for their conference, but that's okay. Found out after the fact. But, you know, I had no idea if they would cover it. And I didn't know, but just simply by asking, they said, yeah, we'll cover 75% of the cost. Just
Awesome.
put our logo on it. They don't get any business directly because they weren't talking to our clients. They didn't fly out, nothing like that. But because they provided that, that was a magnet to get people to our event, and we closed business because of it, and upgraded current clients, which added on their agent. So it was mutually beneficial, exactly what you were talking about. And that was last year. And so we took that same thinking, and now we're doing it this year again. But we're hitting up a lot more vendors to do really cool stuff. So since we've got the card giveaway, we're doing everything under the sun for that. And Brandis actually, I think, just gave me the idea for the Lunch and Learns. At lunch, we were talking about doing training in person for our groups. We're a part of different associations, and that's something I'm actually going to take to them, is offering in-person trainings for their membership base and to their people as an offering at the conferences that hopefully a vendor will pay for. We have to go and ask, right?
Yeah.
But that's like, if you got the eyes and ears of a prospect, they should pay for it. There's nothing better than that. That's a little bit in my experience. You want more, or is that good for now?
We'll get Wayne going, but then we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
You said a lot of good things. I definitely want to touch base with you guys on. Wayne, I know, you tell me, because every time I talk to you, you've got a new thing going with MDF. I mean, we work together, just so everybody knows too. We work on Small Business Tech Day, but he also uses Big Red Virtual for some of his webinar series. So I get to see Wayne every month, and he's coming up with new things constantly. So I'll, tell us a little bit about some of the things you've been successful with.
Well, doing some of the same things that everybody else is doing as well, because doing Lunch and Learns, getting paid. I've done this from the enterprise. I come from the enterprise environment, so I always dealt with, on the value-added reseller side, vendors. So I always got used to going and asking them for money to pay and get multiple vendors. Now, sometimes you'll run into vendors that they'll only pay if they are the only vendor there. So you're going to run into some of those every once in a while, and there's still ways to manipulate them. So don't give up. There's ways around it. But one of the things I think is very important, it goes to, just like what Hunter was saying, with the vendor that doesn't sell directly. And we got, most of us on this thing have those, and you're going out and getting those. But that's still a very valuable thing in coming in and putting into it. And you can put it where you got multiple of those. But also look at vendors that do sell direct. And the reason why I'm saying doing that is, you have your list you're selling to, but what are we after? We're after net new clients, right? We're always trying to add those. So look for those clients that do sell direct, have a sales team, and entice them to bring their list, to grow your list. Okay. Because they have what they call acquisition accounts. And that's people that doesn't have any partners associated to them. So not only can you get the money, but you also entice them with the list. And how you do that, always start at the top. Like I'll get, like we do, and Brandis knows that, like we got a platinum, gold, and silver in our tech day, right? Well, we're pushing for that platinum all the time, give a lot of juicy tidbits for that. But if they say no, that's all right. Then I start playing around the other ones. But if I get down to the end where they're not going to do it, then I go outside of that. And I start to say, look, if you'll bring in 100 registrants on your own list, I'll put your logo on the event. But you got to get 100 registrants on there. So sometimes it's not just the money that you get, it's also how you get creative behind it to get them to bring you a qualified list of registrants that register. Okay. that's the thing I'm playing with right now and tweaking around the small business tech days, because I've got some vendors that they've already out of their budgets. Like one of my big vendors, their budgets for the marketing is actually spent already for the first half of the year. They get two buckets. And so I'm gonna hit them up again at the end of the year. I've already got them slated for 2,500. So I'm gonna get their list and things there's plus 2,500 later. So you like it. So you work there, learn their budgets, how their money comes out, and do that. But the part about asking when you have the plan and go do it, the biggest thing that I recommend you do is you lead. Don't let them lead you. You lead. It's your story. You come in there and you're inviting them to be part of it. So always keep it to that side, because they will try to turn it to where they're controlling it. And you don't want that to happen. You won't do that. So the biggest thing is be confident. Ask, they say no, no big deal, but no does not mean no always. Just remember that. That's probably the biggest thing I can say is keep asking, not just once.
Yeah. It's interesting because I know you do a series, right? So
Mhm.
you started doing a series for webinars, and I know that was one of the things that you came back with was like, hey, I'm going to use some of these vendors that sell direct, which I hear from a lot of MSPs. Gosh, it's you know, scary for them because they don't want to lose that client, right? To a, we'll use Cisco as an example, not necessarily,
Sure.
but you know, just something that does go directly. But it's interesting. I think you have a lot of pieces in place, right? You make them sign a contract and you make them, you know, when they're participating with you and you're giving and sharing the list, you aren't just like, hey, just come in and I'll give it to you.
No,
You're
no, no.
really, you are giving them parameters that they can work within.
Yeah, I came up with my own contract, put it together, and they signed that. So it comes in there. But even it doesn't matter. A contract, yeah, a contract's a contract. Is that going to stop a sales rep out there from going trying to backdoor you? No, it doesn't. But I don't worry about that, because just like everybody else on here, I know my customers, I speak to them, I have my report, what's going on, and I know when the vendors call, because my customer calls me and say, hey, this vendor for such over here trying to sell me that. Okay, just tell them to call me. Oh, I did. You know, so you can't let that worry you. It's going to happen. Even if you don't get them involved, they're still out there knocking on those doors. So try to take advantage of it. Get it where you include. Once they get included, now you got a little bit more teeth to it, because now you can go through those marketing coordinators on their side and say, hey, these sales reps coming in, and they'll go help you and take care of those things. So to start, now you're getting advocates on those side. I'm just used to doing it because I've come from that world for a long, long time. But you can do it. Take advantage of it.
Very cool. Do you guys typically get, you know, when you have something that you're going to do, and we talked a little bit about it. I know you were talking about, you got Threat Locker involved last year, learning, which I think is really important for everybody on here to really learn what's important for that vendor, right? So we've got the guide, it gives you high level of what to look at, but a lot of vendors aren't listed in there yet. And I think that's what you go back to them and say, what's important to you? What do you need from me? Is it your logo? Is it a landing page? Is it your speaking? But then too, like, how do you get more vendors involved? So like this year, you know, you're taking that same type of concept, but now you're moving it into where there's going to be more people involved. How do you go about that? Are you honest with them? Do you tell people, hey, we're going to have different levels, or tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. For us, we do things a little bit out of the ordinary, but in a good way, meaning we have one overarching campaign for us in this case, like it's our car giveaway. That's what we're doing. But I mean, I tried to get somebody to pay for the whole car. They didn't go for it, Wayne. I asked them over and over and over. It didn't happen. So no really meant no, but that's okay. Because then I had the back down offer, right? Of if you want your logo on the car, it's $20,000.
There you go.
And I really pitched that. They didn't go for that either for some reason. So then I kept backing down. And I went to them with a plan, Tanya, to answer your question. I went to them with a plan. I'm going to do direct mail. Here's my cost over 6 months. I'm going to do a full-time caller. there's her cost over 6 months. I've got an appointment bonus plan. There's her cost, or the cost per bonus when they set an appointment. That's going to be for your service that we're adding more seats onto when it sells. So it would be great if there's an incentive there for them, because I just pass that along. I don't get anything from it. You know, we reap it on the back end when we gain new clients. And we do events. And when I took the plan to them, I just said, look, this is everything we're doing. Like Wayne said, you're inviting them in. So I said, I want you to be a part of it and really help us, because I think we're one of your top partners. I know we are. So let's get involved. Let's make more of an impact together, because I can pocket it all, but I tell you, I'll be able to do a lot more cooler things if you can help me, and we'll grow together. And it worked, but yeah, I had to ask.
Brandis, Wayne, you guys do stuff with multiple, I mean, I know some of it, obviously Small Business Tech Day, which, yeah, Aubrey had asked about what Small Business Tech Day is. It's a product that we sell, and I'm happy to give you more information about it. But, you know, it is an event that you do have multiple people, multiple vendors participating with. And I think there's you know, there are the ones that say, hey, I want it to just be me. But I think the bigger things that you do really make you go, hey, I actually, you know, that whole stack, right? So that your whole stack gets involved in it, because everybody shares the wealth. I hear that all the time from vendors. Like, we want to share the wealth. If it's something that's going to cost $20,000 to do, no, you may not get $20,000 from one vendor, but you might get 15 from 5, right? So altogether, you know, you get a couple thousand here, 5,000 from this one, and now you're getting it paid for. You know, Brandis, how do you work with vendors when you're doing something like that? You're just up and up front and say, you know, it's first come, first serve, or tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I can tell you that so far I have not had multiple vendors on an event that were competitive in nature to each other.
Okay.
I have not done that. And I know that, like, obviously, Robin Robbins events, like TMT events, there's all kinds of people that legit are like straight up competitors, and everybody's friendly and it's fine. It's not like, you know, mean or anything, but I haven't done that yet. I try to have vendors that complement each other, or like with Small Business Tech Day, I look at if there are non-negotiables that we have for our clients. You know, certain things that I don't, even the basic level, low end of the tier of some sort of package for managed services, it's all going to have these things. Then that means that any client, any NCA, like any new client that we bring on, is going to benefit every one of those vendors that's involved in that, because they are non-negotiables for our clients. So that's also one way of working, you know, looking at it. I do tell them, in fact, I'll be honest, here's what I do. If you're selling a sponsorship, well, okay, so if you have a vendor for Small Business Tech Day, this happened several times. So for small business, it's even happened this year already. For Small Business Tech Day, if you have a big event and, you know, you've got a big ticket on this, you know, $20,000, and you have a good plan in place, which we absolutely have, you break it down into spots. Wayne mentioned this earlier. You have like your platinum, your gold, your silver, and you say that you have only a certain amount of these to sell. And when I approach people, whether I've even sold one or not, I'll say that I have at least like 1 or 2 out of those sold. Because then, I mean, we want to be a part of what other people are doing also, right? It's like the fear of missing out, like FOMO crap or whatever. So, you know, so if I have 3 gold packages, all at $2,000 a piece, maybe 2 out of 3 of those are sold right now. I don't know. You know, it just depends on my mood at the time when I send it off to that person. And it really doesn't matter if I've sold a damn thing yet. And it works because they want to participate. So, but I am upfront and I say, you know, these are the other people I'm talking to, or, and they complement each other.
Wayne, anything to add to it? I know you were agreeing with her quite a bit.
Right. And when he was going the questions of levels, and like for pricing, when I set the levels of the platinum, gold, and silver, I set platinum at 10 grand, the 3 golds at 5,000 a piece, and then every silver is 2,500. Now, that's set as sponsorship. So one, there's another level to it, is because if they don't sign up to sponsorship, that's okay. Now I'm gonna turn on them and go at MDF and get whatever amount I can get from MDF. And an MDF standpoint, I'll put their materials up on the site. And I'll have one place their logo will go, but it won't be in the forefront. It's just MDF, and they'll show other sponsors and coming into that. And it still gives me another bite at the apple. So just when you come to sponsorship, the word sponsorship and MDF, not the same. So
Yeah.
make sure you understand that. Two different things, okay? MDF, every vendor out there, except young ones that haven't built their marketing infrastructure yet and got really good plans in place, all of them have MDF programs. All of them put budget to it. A lot of them are very poor about communicating that they have one, that they've even set money aside for you, okay? Because there's some that sets it there based on you've been selling all that. It's there. All you got to do is ask and you get it. That's the interesting part that a lot of people don't know. So there's those things there. But also one of the things we did, for example, going back and getting the second bite to the apple, you was talking about my webinar series, which I put on a webinar series is, you know, I take a single webinar and I broke it up into three. One's educational, one's about requirements, and the other one is how we solve problems. And I go to the vendor saying, huh, I want to put on this webinar series, love to have you part of it. It costs $2,500 to partake, be part of it. So they'll actually spend $2,500. I'll take part of that $2,500, do all my postcards and send out. So it funds all my postcards, all that. Plus it funds some of my Big Red Media, and I got money left over. Okay. Well, I have a vendor that actually we just finished up one, but they also signed up to be my platinum sponsor. Because while the webinar series going on, I asked them, hey, I also got this other event. Here's what it is. Put that through while I was doing the webinar, and they come back. Yep. Then actually the PO is being signed today for 10 grand. So just because you've done something with somebody doesn't mean you don't go ask them on another event, even while you're doing the event. Just like I'm sure Brandon's doing that on their lunch and learns, because you don't wait 9 months before you put another program together. You know, there's other things you can go off and do.
Yep.
But if you're doing it, they're part of it and they get it and they see that you're doing the work. You're not just throwing work over to them. You got a whole plan. Even if it's not successful, okay? Didn't have the turnout you was expecting. They were part of it. They bought into it, and they'll help take and actually defend it to get more money because it's a good plan. We just didn't help them execute right. They'll actually take ownership of the fault if you're leading with them. So always be asking, getting that second piece, coming there. And I always said, the only idea you shouldn't float to them is no idea. Be creative. Come up with, like Brandis with the lunch and learn to death, and there was lots of time, but that's now come back around. Before the pandemic, you couldn't get anybody to go to lunch and learn to save your soul. Now they don't want to be on this. They want to go to lunch and learn. So know what's going on in the environment and how trends change and adapt to that. That's the other thing you really look for and how you get creative in what you're doing.
Hunter, how'd you start? What's the first thing you did? Then where you went to a vendor to ask them whether, you know, and we talked a little bit about sponsorship, MDF, they are two different buckets, though you're getting it from the same person. But, you know, what was the first thing, you know, that you did? You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are on here that haven't ever asked for MDF. So where did you start? And were you successful with the first time, or were you not?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I'm kind of learning now myself. There's two buckets, sponsorships and MDF. So thanks for bringing that to light. I got to make some phone calls. But it started with MDF, and that's where I started. And the very first point is ask. Exactly correct. Your ultimate guide helped me tremendously, gave me contacts, gave me the people that I needed to go to, and I recognized vendors. I'm on the marketing side, so not tech side. So I don't know who we use exactly for our cybersecurity piece and endpoint protection and all the things. But I went to my owner and my team and I said, who do we use? Look at all the logos. And they said, yeah, we use that one, we use that one, we use that one. And then I had my hit list and my contacts. And I just started setting up meetings and asking them, what's your program? How does it work? Is there For MDF, is it just one amount that we're allowed to have? What do you need for that? And they're all different. They're all different. And like Wayne said, typically they have money sitting there. They're a pretty big organization or vendor. They're just terrible at telling you about it. I've been doing this for 5 years. I had no idea until like 9 months ago in this series to kind of open my eyes. But once I knew about it, it was on. So I created my plan for what we're going to do. So like the card giveaway is one thing. We're going to hit them up for a lot of other things. And I told them, this is the price, just like Brandis. This is the price for the level. Look, one out of those 2 logos are already taken at 20,000. If you want it, you're gonna pay for it. But they want to partake. And if they back down, they're like, well, we can't do that, but this is what we can do. We're not really supposed to do this, but I'm on the committee that gets it approved. Let me show you how I think we can help you. And because they'll get on your side, they'll be an advocate for you. And it works. It totally works. So we, just to be fully transparent, we only got $3,000 or so last year in MDF. That was from one vendor, one ask. That was it. Well, I asked a lot, but only one. And then this year, with what we're doing, and since we're now reapproaching them, it's not a brand new thing. We have got almost 15,000 in MDF for the card giveaway. Now, that's not a crazy amount. I can't figure out who's giving Wayne 10 grand. I want to figure that out. So that would go a long way. And I need to get that contact, but that at least helps us tremendously with efforts. I mean, that could be the bonuses for the appointment setters, providing it to them. I'll pass it straight along, but it incentivizes them more. It can be different. We did these really cool video brochures for the card giveaway, completely paid for by MDF. And that has landed a bigger impact on our prospects and our clients that we're sending it to promote this giveaway. We would have never done that afterward. Or we never done that if we didn't have MDF. So it definitely worked. And I would start by asking and downloading that guide. Absolutely. Because it's instrumental.
Brandis, what have you been, where did you start? Where have you seen the most success, but really, truly, did you fail at anything? Is there something that you can say, hey, don't do this. This is how they're not going to respond well to.
I would be inclusive. This plays off of what we've already kind of talked about, but even right now, when I am, reaching out for MDF, I also always say something in there. We have a few sponsorship spots available as well. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. Sometimes I don't have that information prepared right off the bat if I'm just looking for MDF. And I will say that really Lunch and Learns, they're not horrible as far as price points. The one that we're planning that's a happy hour is a little higher because we're talking alcohol at that point. And what that looks like. So, but whenever you talk, they are different buckets. So, letting them know, like, yeah, I can do MDF, but I guess they get less it that way. Like, you don't get as much if you want to put more money towards this and get a registration list as an example, or have your marketing on every single, or have your logo on every piece of marketing, be the #1 spot, have it be on this or shared. Even our Lunch and Learns, like, okay, we'll do this together, but what are you putting into that? We have to have, I guess I just ask for more. The #1 thing I keep going back to, like, where do you fail? Not asking, honestly, like, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, move on. You've got 100 other logos that you work with as far as vendors are concerned. I said this in our second session of the series, looking at QuickBooks and seeing who you write checks to. Maybe you're not a tech. I'm not a tech. I don't know every little, I know a lot of our vendors. So looking in QuickBooks and who are you paying? all the way down to people who aren't necessarily vendors. They also want to throw money at things to get their name in front of people. You can also get all kinds of other things. I know we're also going to talk about that as far as swag and giveaways and gift cards and just things that help promote your event. There are even like brand ambassadors in Texas. Wayne, I thought you were in Texas. Are you in Texas?
Mhm.
Have you used a brand ambassador yet? That's a thing too. You can get a brand ambassador to give the alcohol for free in Texas. And so you have like, I don't know, Tito's and talking about cybersecurity or some sort of event like that. Like we're working with that too, because they give away the alcohol for free. And so it's a win-win. Like I get free alcohol for these people who brings people in. And so there's just ask, like get creative and ask. I don't know that I can tell you I've epically failed yet, but I'll knock on wood for that.
Probably the only thing I would say that, when it comes to a failure standpoint is I didn't completely fund what I wanted to fund. Didn't mean I didn't get money. I just might not have got as much money as I wanted to becoming that. And, that's just like what Hunter's doing. When you're doing something that large, that's a massive undertaking, to go off and do it. But you make that work, even if you end up funding let's say half the car from the business, the amount of business you get to, it's about how much business did I get? So there was a question, about, you got MDF. I think it was Kristen, I got MDF, but they're asking to present. That's where you set value. And when we talk about sponsorship versus MDF, the biggest thing I tell everybody is, look, when you're going and asking for the MDF, you're asking to be involved, you're going there with value. You are valuable to them because you're the pathway to revenue for them. So you got to remember you're valuable and what you're bringing is valuable and they should pay for that value. Just like you're asking a customer to pay you for the value you bring, it's no different. So think about that when you're coming in and positioning what you're doing, set that value to it. They want that, hey, great, but there's a price tag to it. Because I'm going to do this for you. I'm bringing people to it. I'm going to promote you. I'm putting my name and my brand beside you. That's value. So you got to keep that in mind, that it's not, the value is not their money. The value is what you're bringing them for that money. And so when you position, just think about that when you're getting creative.
100%. If I can add to that real fast, this is now our second car giveaway. So we've done the Tesla, now we're doing the Corvette, and I approached initially the dealership that we were going to get the Corvette from about a sponsorship deal, essentially. You let us buy the car from you, and we'll put your logo on everything. Talking about that #1 sponsor. We'll put it on everything. We'll have it on the car, everywhere. And unfortunately, the timing, they needed to know like 6 months, a year in advance, because they did the budget at the beginning of the year. So now I know that, but I'm going to go back to them when we do this again, and they will be our #1 sponsor. But we bring the value, because in 3 months or 6 months, I'm putting 15, 20,000 miles on this car, and it's going to so many events, and it's getting so many eyeballs on it. And there's videos being done on it. There's QR codes being scanned on it. People are entering to win it. They're all about it. And if your brand's beside it, how much are you willing to pay to be on it and on the road all the time? And I know they're going to go for it, but you got to have that plan ahead of time and go, look, this is what we're doing. And you can be a part of it. You're bringing the value to them. Absolutely.
I know when I'm coaching and we would talk, between the different products that we sell, and we're talking about, getting MDF, getting sponsorship, whichever one, working with your vendors, right? So working with the vendor and getting money from them. We call it MDF because it's typically, it's the bucket that we know about. But, I think the one thing that people forget, I was talking to Robin about this a couple of months ago. She's like, there's about 16, 17 different tools that an MSP is working with, right? So at any given time, and that could be all the way from your backup, your endpoint security to your copier, right? VoIP, any of that. And I would always tell people, you write out those vendors, write out, like you said, go to QuickBooks, find out who it is that you're paying money to, and ask them to participate. Do you have a program? We didn't talk about it on this series, but I will tell you the partner program with any vendor is the most important program that you can pretty much, if you want anything else from them, go and make sure you're part of their partner programs. They don't know who you are a lot of times, especially if it's one of those more direct vendor, right? That sells, or you're going through a different way of getting that from them. They still want to know about you, but and then there's the other ones that you would sit there and go, gosh, they should have an MDF program. And you say, do you have MDF? No. Do you want to participate in this event that I'm doing, this lunch and learn? This is what I'm going to be. And they go, and all of a sudden now they have money, because they may not necessarily have an actual MDF program, if you will, but typically every single one of them, even a lot of the new ones, the younger ones, if you will, have some type of money. If you're going to sell their product, if you're going to sell more of their solution, they'll come up with a way of giving you something. And I know we've got some questions that are coming in, so I want to make sure we leave time for that. But the next part of that, what else have you gotten besides money from a vendor, right? So, I know one specifically that says, I don't have a program, but I can give you $500 gift card for anything that you're doing, anytime. You just let me know, just call me up and you consider it done. What are some of the things that you guys have seen? And then we'll open it up for questions, from the audience.
Yeah, like you're saying, gift cards. I get a lot of time where they'll come in and say, hey, we'll send you, anybody that registers for Discovery Call, we'll send them $100 or $250. I've had as high as $250 card being sent out. I've had others where I'm on a webinar series. I'll give away, anybody that does a meeting with us, I'll give away a book. And typically I'd have somebody on there, like especially in the education side, they'd be given a signed copy of their book away. There's a lot of different ways and a lot of different things they'll do. Swag is swag, but I like the gift cards better, because the swag, everybody, picks up swag. God, don't send me no more swag. But send me an Amazon gift card, because my wife loves them.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the thing about it is making that relationship and that connect and how you present it. It always comes in and says, we're not going to send you a coffee cup, we're going to do it, but I am going to send you your better half of Amazon card on us. And it endears you. Think about how you position that and those type of things. At least for me, that's what I look for.
I love gift cards. Those are fantastic. But if I can't get that, then I'll still put together like a swag bag, because bearing in mind that we see swag all the time, all over the place, but our prospects don't. So the people who I'm talking to, they love talk nerdy to me shirts or whatever. So, and it's true. And our vendors, they bring that by what, like the hundreds, if not thousands at some point. I mean, they've just got it lying around everywhere in all kinds of sizes. Thread Locker all day long. I'll be like, just give me 2 of everything. Give me 2 of everything. I'm going to put together 2 swag bags. And those are like, second and third place type little prizes. And then whatever, I actually got a $500 gift card for a grand prize giveaway. So you do that as the grand prize. And it's just how to get more butts and seats. How do I get more people to attend this and listen to me?
Absolutely. We did, whenever we do a webinar, we don't do them as often as some do, but probably you guys, but when we do it, we try and get some sort of piece of a giveaway, just an added bonus. And it may be either a surprise or we tell registrants about it ahead of time. And we hit up our hardware folks that we get, Cenex or other ones, and just say, look, what do you have? We're promoting whatever it is, X. Do you have a Microsoft Surface? Do you have $500? Do you have something that we can give? It can be, I don't know, Bose headphones. Like, it don't even have to be a technology piece that we provide and we'll service afterwards. And they're like, yeah, sure, I'll ship it to you. And you just ask. They'll send swag in a heartbeat. Like at our last CyberCon event, I had a whole table of hand sanitizers to pins, shirts that we provide. This is like one of the ones we give away at our event. And we had the koozies from ConnectWise, really, really nice pins from them too. And our client ate it up. They were like, I can have one of everything. We're like, yeah, take it. We don't want it. You can have it.
I don't want it.
And they're like, well, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take this one for somebody else at the office. And they loved it. And your sponsors will do that, or your vendors.
Yeah.
I think there's another point that you brought up, and I think Tanya, you was kind of hitting on to. We've been talking about these end vendors and getting money for them, but don't forget, even if you don't directly buy from those vendors, you're buying through a distributor.
Mhm.
Distributors have money.
Yep.
Because they have people associated to each one of those product lines. You know who that person is. You go hit them and say, hey, I'm looking to do this, want to get money. And they'll, if the distributor will have money, but also then they'll know who to talk to get you additional money directly from the vendor you're selling. So don't discount talking to a distributor.
Awesome. Well, I'm sorry, Hunter, do you have something else? Okay, I want to make sure we answer some of the questions that have come up. If you had any other questions, feel free to type it into the Q&A. I know, Tim, I think Brandis, you just answered that one, right? Tim asked if they give you access to, you know, their marketing tools such as Lucia, HubSpot, Zoom Info. You know, have you guys used anybody for that?
I have not gotten, that's what I just typed in is I have never, no, I haven't asked. Like, I can't even imagine what that would look like. It's one thing, I guess, if I were like saying, bring this many people or have this many registrants, but no, I have not asked, you know, can I have access to your whatever Zoom Info? That seems like, that seems awesome. If you're able to pull that off, you know, let me know.
I would think you could say, you know, you might be able to ask them to pull a list for you, you know, something
Yeah.
along those lines. I could see where a vendor would help you with that. I know when we were in our first webinar, I was talking to CyberQP, and Jimmy, who used to be QuickPass. He was like, let us know if we need to help you build a list, we'll help you build a list. So I would think in the same type of way of working with them, you know, you'd be surprised again what vendors will do and what they'll have access to. They may not give you access, they may not give you a login to their Zoom Info or to their HubSpot or Salesforce, but they may say, let me see who I can pull a list for. Again, if they've got orphans out there that don't have another MSP attached to them, just like what Wayne's doing, they could probably give you access to that. Another question Kevin has on here, do you guys recommend any vendors to approach? Is there a list of vendors that have, you know, definitely offer sponsorship? Here's what I'll tell you about the difference between, there's two buckets. Typically, those two buckets sit inside the business development group for all vendors. You know, that could be the CEO if it's a smaller one, or it could be, you know, the person that's in charge of their business development channel only, those types of things. Typically, they're going to come up with two things. They either have inside the partner program, they're going to say, based on you being part of my partner program, you're entitled to this amount of money. And that amount will differentiate based on your level of partnership with them. But then you can go back to them typically and say, actually, I have a sponsorship too. So if you're doing a webinar where you have speaking spots, if any of you guys have been to any of our events, you see that we sell, you know, on stage 2 minutes. You know, if it's coming to PC next week, you've got somebody that's paying a lot of money to be on there for 30 minutes and somebody that's paying not as much, but still a lot of money to be on there for 2 minutes. So, you know, being able to offer them, just like what everyone on here said, a couple of different levels of saying, hey, there's MDF, and MDF gives you, you know, this. If you want to speak or you want the list, we can talk about what a sponsorship would look like in that aspect, and just be able to talk to them a little bit about that. That's how I would work the sponsorship and the MDF. Typically, it's the same company, just different buckets of where they're getting the money from, if that answers that. Any other questions, guys? This is your time to put it in here, or we'll wrap up. I know we're at the top of the hour, and I'm sure everyone, especially on our panel, has some things that they need to get to. But I just want to thank you guys for being part of this. I know this is again, one of the pieces that I heard over and over again last year with working with MSPs. They're like, I know there's MDF, I just don't know how to get it. And I hear from the vendors going, we have MDF, but we don't have, you know, the MSPs using it, or they're not sending us the correct information, or they don't know how to do it. So I appreciate all three of you guys being on here to really help educate the community. You know, we do want you guys to download the guide. I'll put it in the chat. If you haven't done that, you can email me directly. It's Tanya Gentry, tanya.gentry@bigredmedia.com. I'll put that in the chat too. But I really appreciate you guys being part of it, and thank you guys for doing this, and thank you for all the attendees for being part of it.
Most welcome, anytime.
All right, thank you
See you next
guys.
week.
Yeah, see you next week.
See you next
Bye.
week.